Hey everybody, my name is Grace if you're new to my YouTube channel, and as you can tell from the title of today's video, I'm going to be talking about a I know it can be triggering subject to some people, so if the discussion of eating disorders or anything along those lines bothers you or upsets you by any means, I recommend to please click off this video, don't watch it, because today I am going to be reading my Sociology of Mental Health final paper that I had made for the end of this past spring semester, and I talked about my story with having an eating disorder and REDS, and also incorporated a bunch of research into the paper as well, because I think they are topics that need to be discussed more, and they definitely have been talked about more openly in recent years, but I still feel like there needs more to be done. I'm going to start by reading it, and yeah, this is my story. For as long as I can remember, athletics have been a part of my life. Growing up, my parents exposed both my sister and I to many different sports. While I played soccer for the majority of my childhood, I eventually switched to running my sophomore year of high school. I had tried out track my freshman year of high school as a way to stay fit for soccer in the fall. However, I ended up falling in love with running and decided to do cross country instead of going back to soccer. Now, don't get me wrong, I have a ton of great memories regarding my high school running experience and wouldn't trade my opportunities for the world. Even though my mental health was seriously challenged and there were a lot of obstacles along the way, I know that everything I experienced happened for a reason, and most importantly, taught me an important life lesson. To be completely honest, I genuinely feel that having had an eating disorder and being diagnosed with REDS now puts me in a position where I can help advocate for and promote mental health awareness around body image, disordered eating, and the prevalence of REDS, especially in female athletes, by sharing my story. So I will also explain what REDS is as I continue reading. Just wanted to put that out there because I know I keep mentioning it and I'm sure not everyone knows what that is. So although this can be an extremely difficult topic for people, including myself, to talk about, it is so important to acknowledge because so many struggle with an eating disorder. For the sake of this paper and this video, I will be focusing on female athletes. However, please know that many males and non-athletes also struggle with body image and disordered eating, as well as REDS. Statistics show that 13.5% of athletes struggle with an eating disorder. Of those who have an eating disorder, 45% are female athletes and 19% are male athletes. Going off of those stats, 64% of those who have an eating disorder are athletes. Why such a high percentage? I've asked myself this question a lot, but ultimately, I believe it comes down to it being difficult to distinguish the difference in whether an athlete is working hard or engaging in unhealthy eating disorder behaviors. Behaviors such as eating healthy or clean, obsessing over food and nutrition, as well as training or exercising for hours on end are often very glorified in athletics. For me, I definitely got caught up in the more is better mindset when I first started running. I didn't realize I was doing anything wrong, but I was not fueling myself enough for the amount of exercise and activity I was doing. What I wish I knew then was how detrimental the long-term impacts of my eating disorder behaviors would be. Our bodies require energy to function and perform. Thus, we must nourish our bodies and give ourselves time to rest and recover. I think that the reason why long-distance runners are at such a high risk of developing an eating disorder is due to this toxic belief that exists amongst the running community, where many athletes believe that a lower body weight equals a better performance. I won't lie, even I thought that I'd become a better runner if I lost weight and got thinner. Unfortunately, there is some truth to it. Scientifically, the early symptoms of RED-S can actually improve one's performance and mask the underlying damage, but only short term. How exactly? Well, a lower body weight can technically make one feel lighter and may result in running faster times. However, and I seriously cannot reiterate this enough, only short term. Unhealthy behaviors such as excessive exercise and restrictive eating will inevitably catch up to the individual. However, this early onset of success is such a major issue because it continues to glamorize and reinforce a prominent issue amongst the running community. Trust me, I've experienced this firsthand. Though I'm not proud of how I went about it, and while I did have success at first and quickly became one of my high school team's top runners, it all eventually caught up to me. Once I reached the college level, I noticed that I felt much more fatigued during workouts and races. However, I continued to train at a high level and to push my body to its very limit, quite literally. In all honesty, my running career here at Quinnipiac has been full of ups and downs. I've had really good races, but also really bad races. It's been a confusing 3 years thus far, but it wasn't until this past fall semester of my junior year when I finally figured out why I hadn't been performing to my full potential. It all comes down to the fact that I was not adequately fueling myself for the amount of energy my body was expending on a daily basis. Now, I won't lie and say I was completely naive and unaware of what I was doing. For some reason, I was still consumed with this idea that I need to shrink myself to as small as a body as I could to improve as a runner. I do now realize how silly and illogical that sounds. However, having an eating disorder is a mental illness, and as much as I hate to admit it, I was sick. I often ask myself how I got sick and why I ever even developed an eating disorder. I had a great childhood with such supportive parents that never shamed me for my weight whatsoever. That being said, I think the pressure of competition and constantly comparing myself to other runners and their performances led to me experiencing poor body image as well as body dysmorphia. In addition, our society tends to glorify being skinny and lean, which I think also played a role in pressuring me to lose weight so that I would ultimately be accepted. In fact, I remember scrolling through social media for hours on end in high school and even college, comparing myself to other female runners in their bodies, criticizing quite literally every flaw that I believed myself to have. I'm definitely not proud of it, but it's the truth and an unfortunate reality for so many other female as well as male athletes and non-athletes. By now, you may be wondering, what makes having an eating disorder so dangerous and concerning? Well, what many individuals don't realize, myself included at the time, is that athletes struggling with disordered eating are at a much higher risk of developing RED-S, which stands for Relative Energy Deficiency in Sport. Never heard of it? I honestly wouldn't be surprised, as I had been unaware of its significant detrimental repercussions up until this past year. RED-S describes an unhealthy condition characterized by poor athletic performance that occurs when athletes do not fuel enough to support the amount of energy needed to fulfill athletic training in addition to daily, everyday tasks. So ultimately, getting enough rest and adequate nutrition is essential, whether you're an athlete or not. If an individual continues to expend energy without refueling their strenuous efforts, their energy deficit will only increase. Though they may not notice the effects immediately, the long-term impacts will become evident over time, notably affecting their overall health, well-being, endurance, and strength. More specifically, RED-S affects multiple vital systems throughout the entire body, including reproductive health in women, low libido in men, bone health, immunity, metabolism, cardiovascular health, as well as psychological health. So who is most at risk for RED-S? While anyone can develop RED-S, competitive athletes and very active individuals who are more likely to engage in excessive exercise, as well as those who feel pressured to perform at a high level, are those who are most at risk. Such individuals may experience a low energy availability if not adequately fueling or giving their body enough time to rest. Diving deeper, long-term calorie deficits can lead to irreparable damage that presents itself in a variety of both physical and psychological symptoms. Typically, RED-S can go unnoticed and isn't always very easy to identify. For me, I just thought I was experiencing extreme fatigue, when in all actuality, my body was slowly breaking down due to the lack of energy availability. The scary thing is, when we lack energy, our bodies shut down important systems. Two significant examples include our digestive as well as our reproductive and hormonal systems. When our digestive system isn't functioning properly, we are more likely to experience digestive discomfort, stomach pain, and bloating. I'm pretty sure that I've gotten every single blood test under the sun. I've had countless doctors diagnose me with food intolerances, but no blood work truly indicated any issues regarding my overall gut health. Ultimately, my history of restricting certain food groups, such as dairy and gluten, has resulted in a pretty messed up, very sensitive stomach. The solution? Food freedom. Allow yourself to eat whatever your body is craving with no limitations or restrictions, unless, of course, you have an allergy. That's totally different. Now, I'm not a doctor or a health specialist by any means, but from my own personal experience, continuously introducing my body to different foods has seriously helped my stomach eventually get used to them. I won't lie, it feels really uncomfortable at first, but it does get easier and is so worth it. Now, while RED-S can affect both males and females, women specifically can experience hormonal dysfunction and loss of or irregular periods. This is better known as hypothalamic amenorrhea. Hopefully I said that correctly. Something that I've struggled with for years. Like many others, I honestly liked not having my period. It was very convenient, but also very unhealthy. Why is having a period so important? Simply put, it's a very vital and necessary function of women's health. Having a regular monthly period indicates that a woman's body is strong enough and capable of having a baby. Thus, the absence of a period should be an immediate warning sign to females everywhere. Its absence suggests that the body is struggling and/or is lacking something it needs to function properly. Additionally, not having a period puts one's body at risk for bone loss, largely due to important reproductive hormones such as estrogen and progesterone levels dropping. Estrogen promotes bone loss and progesterone, that word messes me up so much. Both estrogen and progesterone, whatever, I'm definitely saying that wrong, are extremely important hormones for women. Without them, women put themselves at risk of developing osteopenia, bone thinning, or even osteoporosis, bone loss. This was definitely a much-needed wake-up call for me, as I recently discovered this past fall that I have osteopenia from a bone density scan that I got. Osteopenia comes before osteoporosis. Luckily, osteopenia is reversible, but osteoporosis is not. Therefore, I must make it an absolute priority to fuel my body and provide my body with enough rest. I'm also currently trying out hormone replacement therapy in order to get my hormones back to normal and protect my bones from further damage, which is basically just have a little patch that puts a little bit of estrogen into my body every day, and it's been going well so far. I actually got my period back after 6 years of not having it, so that was a good sign. And so hopefully I will be getting off of that, I believe, next month, maybe 2 more months that I have the hormone therapy. I was doing it for 6 months, and I should probably know how long I've been doing it. But anyways, I'll be getting off that, and the goal is, after having been on it for 6 months and having had my period start back up again, my body will be able to continue functioning healthily and normally on its own. So I just have to keep doing all the right things, fueling myself, making sure I rest enough, and just staying on the right track. So going back to the paper, so yes, I'm doing the hormone replacement therapy, get hormones back to normal, and protect my bones from further damage and reverse this osteopenia. So running is something that I truly love and what I want to be able to do for the rest of my life. However, the path I was on would have permanently broken me and prevented me from going on another run ever again. What pains me the most is that I know I'm not the only woman struggling with the consequences of having had an eating disorder and RED-s. In fact, there's an entire subset of RED-s with a medical diagnosis called the female athlete triad. The female athlete triad is characterized by disordered eating, irregular menstruation or period, and bone loss. The concerning thing is that so many individuals, regardless of whether they are an athlete or not, have RED-s and the female athlete triad, even if you're not an athlete, but have absolutely no idea that they have it. That's why I think it's so important that our society talks more about and educates individuals on the detrimental effects of not fueling our bodies enough and over-exercising. As a current psychology major here at Quinnipiac University, I hope to help others prioritize their mental health and prevent individuals from making the same mistakes I've made. In a society where we are constantly told that more is better, no pain, no gain, it can be very difficult to do the right thing for our bodies. However, at the end of the day, we only have one life and one body. That body deserves to be listened to and taken care of. I could honestly write about or talk about this with you all for hours on end, but to wrap up, I want to provide some things that people can do to stay healthy and prevent the onset of RED-s. First off, eat a healthy, and by healthy, I mean an unrestricted diet, I put diet in quotation marks because it's not really a diet, with enough fats, carbs, and protein. No food is bad. All food is fuel and should be enjoyed. Additionally, ensure that your exercise level matches the amount of food you eat. Simply put, the more you exercise, the more you're gonna have to eat. You wouldn't drive a car empty with no gas, so why would you go for a run or do a workout before fueling your own tank? Going off of that, make sure that you give yourself enough time to rest. Yes, it's great to be productive and get stuff done. However, if we don't give our bodies time to rest, they will never be given the opportunity to adequately recover. And lastly, for some final notes, I think it's so important that athletes avoid coaches who focus solely on competition and winning rather than the health and well-being of their athletes. Please avoid any coach who focuses or puts an emphasis on your weight. You are so much more than a number on a scale, and anyone who thinks otherwise doesn't deserve to be a part of your life, whether that's a coach, friend, anyone. They don't deserve to be a part of your life if they care about how much you weigh, because that's simply irrelevant and not important. I've personally been very fortunate to have had such a great support system and coaches and just support staff, everybody. Everybody here at Quinnipiac University has been amazing and so helpful, but I know that this isn't the case for all athletes. So finally, don't be afraid to reach out for help. I honestly struggled with this one for a while. I was so scared of what people would think and how they would view me if they knew I was struggling. With that said, I eventually realized that it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help. In fact, it's a sign of bravery and strength and not something you should ever be ashamed of. Therefore, I encourage each and every one of you to continue and normalize this discussion, reaching out to and helping others when needed. Life can, without a doubt, be very difficult. You never know what someone may be struggling or dealing with, so be kind and remember that you're enough. If you listened to this entire video, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening to my story. I know this video is pretty long, but it's something that I definitely wanted to share with you all for a while and basically normalize the discussion. All right, thank you all for listening. Love you all.